Taking action is one of the most difficult things to do, especially when the tasks ahead of you feel overwhelming or you're unsure of where to begin. We all know what it feels like to get stuck, to procrastinate, or to keep putting things off for tomorrow. But here's the truth. If you don't take action today, nothing will change. You'll keep waiting, and life will keep moving forward, with or without you. It doesn't matter how big or small the task is. The key to success lies in your ability to take consistent action. The question is, how do you push through the resistance and actually do something, instead of just thinking about it? How do you build a habit of taking action in your daily life, no matter how hard it feels? In this guide, we'll talk about how to force yourself to take action when you don't feel like it. We'll discuss real strategies and practical advice to help you build momentum, even when everything inside you is telling you to procrastinate or give up. It's about creating a mindset that pushes you to get up and do the work, even when it feels difficult or uncomfortable. By understanding what drives you, managing your time, and building habits, you'll be able to push past the mental roadblocks that have held you back for so long. It's time to stop waiting for the perfect moment to get started, because that moment may never come. Taking action doesn't require perfect conditions, it only requires your commitment. You'll learn how to master the habits that will carry you through, even on the toughest days, and how to keep moving forward toward the life you want. This isn't just about motivation, it's about creating a system of action that works for you. By the end of this guide, you'll have practical tools to force yourself to take action day after day, so you can start making real progress toward your goals. The choice is yours. Stay stuck in the cycle of hesitation, or take the first step toward becoming the person you want to be. Your success begins with one simple decision: to take action. Let's dive in and figure out how to make that happen. Chapter 1. The Power of Decisions. The first step to achieving anything worthwhile is making a decision. A real decision, the kind that closes the door to all other options and pushes you forward. The reason so many people stay stuck is that they avoid making those firm decisions. They hesitate, weigh options endlessly, and let the fear of making the wrong choice hold them back. The truth is, nothing changes until you decide to act. That's the starting line for everything. Decisions carry a unique kind of power. When you make one, it sends a signal to your brain that this is the direction you're going. It tells your body, your mind, and even the people around you that you're committed. That shift in focus is like flipping a switch. Suddenly, what seemed overwhelming starts to feel manageable because you've taken control. The challenge many face is the habit of waiting. Waiting for the perfect time, waiting until they feel ready, or waiting until they're absolutely sure of the outcome. The problem with waiting is that it keeps you in the same place. Time passes, opportunities slip away, and the confidence you once had begins to fade. You have to understand that waiting is a choice in itself, and often it's the wrong one. When you make a decision, you take a step toward clarity. Think about the relief you feel when you finally decide on something you've been stuck on. That weight lifts, and you can breathe easier. Indecision keeps that weight on your shoulders, making everything feel heavier. By choosing a path, even if it's not perfect, you free yourself from the mental drain of going back and forth. Most people hesitate because they're afraid of making the wrong decision. They picture all the ways things could go wrong and let that fear keep them paralyzed. But here's the truth. Any decision, even one that doesn't work out, is better than staying stuck. When you act, you gain experience. You learn what works and what doesn't. You can adjust, improve, and grow. But when you sit still, you gain nothing. You're left wondering what could have been, and that regret is far heavier than any mistake you might make. Start thinking about the small decisions you make every day. These are often overlooked because they don't feel significant. What time you wake up, whether you choose to exercise or skip it, how you respond to challenges, all of these moments shape your life. The small choices you make daily build up over time to create big results. If you consistently choose to take action, even in small ways, you'll find yourself moving forward faster than you ever thought possible. The first step is recognizing the consequences of inaction. Often, people don't act because they don't fully acknowledge what's at stake. Maybe it's the loss of potential income, the missed chances for growth, or the regret of never knowing what could have been. These costs are real, but they're not always obvious. Take a moment to think about the areas in your life where you've hesitated. What opportunities have slipped away because you didn't take action? What could you have achieved by now if you had started earlier? Now, think about the positive side of acting. What would change in your life if you took that first step today? Would you feel more confident? Would you build momentum towards something meaningful? When you focus on the benefits of action, you start to see why it's worth the effort. The key is to make those benefits feel real and tangible. It's not enough to think vaguely about a better future. You need to imagine it clearly and vividly. Picture the results in detail and connect them to your emotions. There's a reason people are motivated by deadlines or external pressures. When something feels urgent, it forces you to focus. But you don't have to wait for life to create urgency for you. You can create it for yourself by setting clear timelines and reminding yourself what's at stake. This sense of urgency keeps you from putting things off and helps you stay on track. Without it, it's easy to fall into the trap of someday, which often turns into never. Another part of building the case for action is addressing your fears. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles to taking that first step, and it usually comes from uncertainty. People worry about failing, making mistakes, or not being good enough. While these fears are natural, they're often exaggerated. Most of the things we worry about never actually happen, and even when they do, they're rarely as bad as we imagine. Facing your fears directly can help you see them for what they really are: barriers you have the power to overcome. It's also important to look at your motivations. Why do you want to achieve this goal? Is it for personal growth, to provide a better life for your family, or to prove something to yourself? The stronger your reasons, the easier it will be to push through challenges. Write down your reasons and keep them somewhere visible. When you feel stuck, look at them and remind yourself why you started. Action isn't just about big goals and life-changing decisions. Sometimes it's the smaller, everyday choices that make the biggest difference. Deciding to exercise for 20 minutes, eat a healthy meal, or spend time learning something new might not seem significant in the moment, but over time these actions add up. They build habits that shape your future, one step at a time. To build a strong case for action, you also need to address the stories you tell yourself. If you're constantly saying, "I'm too busy," "I don't have enough experience," or "it's not the right time," you're creating excuses that hold you back. Challenge these stories and replace them with ones that empower you. Instead of focusing on what you lack, focus on what you can do with what you have. Accountability is another powerful tool. When you share your goals with someone you trust, it adds a layer of commitment. Knowing that someone else is watching your progress can motivate you to stay consistent. Whether it's a friend, family member, or mentor, having someone in your corner can make a big difference. Taking action also requires planning. While it's important to start, it's equally important to have a clear direction. When you know what steps to take, the path forward feels less overwhelming. Break your goal into smaller tasks and focus on completing one at a time. Celebrate each step forward, no matter how small it may seem. Progress is progress, and every bit counts. Building the case for action isn't a one-time thing. It's something you need to revisit regularly. Life will throw challenges your way, and there will be days when you feel like giving up. When those moments come, remind yourself why you started. Reconnect with your reasons and use them to reignite your drive. Action requires effort, but the rewards are always worth it. The confidence you gain, the skills you develop, and the sense of accomplishment you feel all come from taking that first step. The more you act, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll build momentum, and what once felt impossible will start to feel natural. You have the ability to create the life you want, but it won't happen by waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. Build your case for action, take that first step, and watch how quickly things begin to change. The first step is recognizing the consequences of inaction. Often, people don't act because they don't fully acknowledge what's at stake. Maybe it's the loss of potential income, the missed chances for growth, or the regret of never knowing what could have been. These costs are real, but they're not always obvious. Take a moment to think about the areas in your life where you've hesitated. What opportunities have slipped away because you didn't take action? What could you have achieved by now if you had started earlier? Now, think about the positive side of acting. What would change in your life if you took that first step today? Would you feel more confident? Would you build momentum towards something meaningful? When you focus on the benefits of action, you start to see why it's worth the effort. The key is to make those benefits feel real and tangible. It's not enough to think vaguely about a better future. You need to imagine it clearly and vividly. Picture the results in detail and connect them to your emotions. There's a reason people are motivated by deadlines or external pressures. When something feels urgent, it forces you to focus. But you don't have to wait for life to create urgency for you. You can create it for yourself by setting clear timelines and reminding yourself what's at stake. This sense of urgency keeps you from putting things off and helps you stay on track. Without it, it's easy to fall into the trap of someday, which often turns into never. Another part of building the case for action is addressing your fears. Fear is one of the biggest obstacles to taking that first step, and it usually comes from uncertainty. People worry about failing, making mistakes, or not being good enough. While these fears are natural, they're often exaggerated. Most of the things we worry about never actually happen, and even when they do, they're rarely as bad as we imagine. Facing your fears directly can help you see them for what they really are: barriers you have the power to overcome. It's also important to look at your motivations. Why do you want to achieve this goal? Is it for personal growth, to provide a better life for your family, or to prove something to yourself? The stronger your reasons, the easier it will be to push through challenges. Write down your reasons and keep them somewhere visible. When you feel stuck, look at them and remind yourself why you started. Action isn't just about big goals and life-changing decisions. Sometimes it's the smaller, everyday choices that make the biggest difference. Deciding to exercise for 20 minutes, eat a healthy meal, or spend time learning something new might not seem significant in the moment, but over time these actions add up. They build habits that shape your future, one step at a time. To build a strong case for action, you also need to address the stories you tell yourself. If you're constantly saying, "I'm too busy," "I don't have enough experience," or "it's not the right time," you're creating excuses that hold you back. Challenge these stories and replace them with ones that empower you. Instead of focusing on what you lack, focus on what you can do with what you have. Accountability is another powerful tool. When you share your goals with someone you trust, it adds a layer of commitment. Knowing that someone else is watching your progress can motivate you to stay consistent. Whether it's a friend, family member, or mentor, having someone in your corner can make a big difference. Taking action also requires planning. While it's important to start, it's equally important to have a clear direction. When you know what steps to take, the path forward feels less overwhelming. Break your goal into smaller tasks and focus on completing one at a time. Celebrate each step forward, no matter how small it may seem. Progress is progress, and every bit counts. Building the case for action isn't a one-time thing. It's something you need to revisit regularly. Life will throw challenges your way, and there will be days when you feel like giving up. When those moments come, remind yourself why you started. Reconnect with your reasons and use them to reignite your drive. Action requires effort, but the rewards are always worth it. The confidence you gain, the skills you develop, and the sense of accomplishment you feel all come from taking that first step. The more you act, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll build momentum, and what once felt impossible will start to feel natural. You have the ability to create the life you want, but it won't happen by waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now. Build your case for action, take that first step, and watch how quickly things begin to change. Chapter 3. The Pain and Pleasure Principle. Every decision we make, every action we take, is driven by two forces: the desire to avoid pain and the pursuit of pleasure. These are the most powerful motivators in life. Whether we realize it or not, they guide almost everything we do. When faced with a choice, we subconsciously ask ourselves, will this hurt or help me? Will it make my life easier or harder? Understanding how these forces work can give you the power to take control of your actions and, ultimately, your life. People are often more motivated to avoid discomfort than to gain something valuable. This is why someone might stay in a job they hate rather than take the risk of pursuing something better. The fear of failure or rejection feels more immediate than the potential joy of success. This imbalance can keep people stuck for years. The key to breaking free is shifting how you perceive pain and pleasure. You have to make the pain of staying the same greater than the pain of change, and make the pleasure of taking action more vivid and rewarding than the comfort of inaction. Think about a habit you've tried to break. Maybe it's procrastinating, overeating, or spending too much time on distractions. What stopped you from changing? Chances are you associated more pain with the effort required to change than with the consequences of staying the same. The short-term discomfort of saying no to a craving or focusing on work felt more real than the long-term consequences of your choices. This is why so many people struggle to stick to resolutions. They focus on what they're giving up rather than what they stand to gain. The way to overcome this is by rewiring your thinking. Start by identifying the true cost of staying where you are. If you keep putting off your goals, what will your life look like in 5 years? If you continue with unhealthy habits, how will that impact your health and happiness? Be honest with yourself. Write it down if you need to. Seeing the potential consequences in black and white can be a powerful motivator. Now, think about the benefits of taking action. What will your life look like if you commit to change? Picture it clearly. Imagine the sense of pride you'll feel, the opportunities that will open up, and the energy you'll have. Make that vision as detailed and emotional as possible. The more real it feels, the stronger your drive will be. One reason people struggle to act is that they focus too much on the immediate discomfort. Change often requires stepping outside your comfort zone, and that can be intimidating, but discomfort is temporary. The effort you put in today pays off tomorrow, and the satisfaction of achieving your goals far outweighs the initial struggle. Instead of avoiding discomfort, lean into it. Recognize it as a sign that you're growing and moving forward. This principle also applies to habits you want to create. For example, if you want to start exercising regularly, focus on the positive feelings that come after a workout, like increased energy and a sense of accomplishment, rather than the effort it takes to get started. If you associate exercise with pain and effort, you're less likely to stick with it. But if you link it to the pleasure of feeling strong and healthy, it becomes easier to stay consistent. Another way to use this principle is by creating small rewards for yourself. When you associate positive emotions with action, you reinforce the habit. For instance, if you complete a challenging task at work, take a short break to enjoy something you love. Over time, your brain will start to connect productivity with pleasure, making it easier to stay motivated. It's also important to recognize that pain and pleasure aren't always immediate. Some decisions bring short-term comfort but lead to long-term regret, while others require short-term effort but result in lasting rewards. Think about spending money impulsively versus saving for something meaningful. One choice might feel good in the moment, but the other brings a deeper sense of satisfaction. To stay on track, remind yourself of the long-term benefits of your choices. Sometimes the hardest part is simply starting. Once you take the first step, momentum builds, and the process becomes less daunting. The initial resistance you feel is normal, but it's temporary. The more you practice taking action despite that resistance, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll build a habit of acting rather than hesitating, and that habit will serve you in every area of your life. Another factor to consider is how your environment influences your perception of pain and pleasure. Surrounding yourself with people who encourage growth and action can make a huge difference. When you see others striving for their goals and celebrating their progress, it reminds you of what's possible. On the other hand, if you're surrounded by negativity or complacency, it's easy to fall into the same patterns. Choose your environment wisely. Self-awareness is essential for this process. Pay attention to the stories you tell yourself about why you can or can't do something. If you believe that change is too hard or that success isn't meant for you, those thoughts will hold you back. Challenge those beliefs and replace them with ones that empower you. Remind yourself that every choice you make is an opportunity to grow and improve. Consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It's not about making huge changes overnight, but about taking small, consistent steps in the right direction. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you strengthen your ability to take action. Over time, those small decisions add up, creating a life that reflects your goals and values. The relationship between pain and pleasure is at the core of human behavior. When you understand how to use it to your advantage, you gain a powerful tool for creating change. By shifting your perspective and focusing on the long-term benefits of action, you can overcome the obstacles that have held you back. Your future is shaped by the choices you make today, and every step forward brings you closer to the life you want. The key is to keep moving, even when it feels difficult, because the rewards are always worth it. Chapter 4. The Habit Loop. Starting small. Change can feel overwhelming when you think about it as one giant leap. The idea of overhauling your habits, routines, or life in one go is enough to make anyone hesitate. That's why starting small is so important. Small steps build confidence, and confidence builds momentum. Instead of focusing on how far you have to go, focus on the next thing you can do right now. The smallest actions, when repeated consistently, lead to the biggest transformations. Habits shape much of our lives. They're the routines we follow without even thinking, the things we do automatically because they've become part of who we are. The challenge is that bad habits are just as easy to fall into as good ones, sometimes even easier. That's why it's important to take control of them. If you want to change your life, you have to start with the habits that guide your days. The good news is that creating new habits doesn't have to be difficult. It starts with one simple behavior. If you want to be healthier, maybe you begin with drinking a glass of water in the morning. If you want to be more productive, perhaps you spend 5 minutes planning your day. These actions are small enough to feel manageable, but they set the stage for bigger changes. Over time, they become part of your routine, and you won't have to think about them, they'll just happen. One reason small steps work so well is that they're less intimidating. When you set a goal that feels overwhelming, it's easy to talk yourself out of it. But when the goal is so small that it feels almost effortless, there's no excuse not to do it. Each time you complete that small action, you reinforce the habit and prove to yourself that you can follow through. That sense of accomplishment, no matter how small, motivates you to keep going. Consistency is more important than intensity when you're building habits. It's not about doing something perfectly from the start. It's about showing up every day and doing what you can. Even on days when you're tired, busy, or unmotivated, sticking to your habit in some form keeps the momentum alive. It's better to do a little than to do nothing at all. Over time, those small efforts compound, and what once felt difficult becomes second nature. When you're trying to create a new habit, it helps to attach it to something you already do. For example, if you want to start meditating, you could do it right after brushing your teeth in the morning. By linking the new habit to an existing one, you create a natural reminder and make it easier to follow through. This strategy works because it takes advantage of the routines you already have in place, reducing the effort required to get started. Accountability is another powerful tool. When you share your goals with someone else or track your progress in a visible way, it adds a layer of commitment. Knowing that someone else is aware of your efforts, that you'll see a record of your progress can motivate you to stay consistent. Even something as simple as marking a calendar each day you complete your habit can be surprisingly effective. It's also important to celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Every time you follow through on your habit, you're making a choice to improve yourself, and that deserves recognition. Celebrate those victories, whether it's with a mental pat on the back, a small reward, or simply taking a moment to acknowledge your effort. These celebrations reinforce the behavior and make it more likely that you'll stick with it. While starting small is effective, it's natural to want to see results quickly. The key is to stay patient and trust the process. Habits take time to develop, and the results often come after weeks or months of consistent effort. Remind yourself that every small action is a step in the right direction, even if the progress feels slow. Over time, those small actions add up, and the changes in your life become undeniable. Another challenge is staying focused when life gets busy. It's easy to let new habits slide when you're overwhelmed or distracted. That's why it's helpful to plan for obstacles in advance. Think about what might get in the way of your habit and come up with strategies to overcome those challenges. If you know you'll be busy, you might schedule your habit for a specific time of day or find a way to make it more convenient. Planning ahead makes it easier to stay on track. Self-awareness is critical when building habits. Pay attention to what's working and what isn't, and be willing to make adjustments as needed. If a habit feels too difficult to stick with, try breaking it down into an even smaller step. If you find that a certain time of day works better for you, make that your new routine. The goal is to create a system that fits your life and makes it as easy as possible to follow through. One of the most powerful things about habits is how they can transform your identity. When you consistently take actions that align with your goals, you start to see yourself differently. You go from someone who wants to be healthier to someone who is healthy. You go from someone who struggles with discipline to someone who is disciplined. This shift in identity is incredibly motivating because it reinforces the behavior you're working to create. The first step is often the hardest, but it's also the most important. Once you take that initial action, no matter how small, you've started the process of change. Each step after that becomes easier as you build momentum and confidence. By focusing on small, consistent actions, you create a foundation for lasting success. When you look back on your journey, you'll see that it wasn't the big leaps that made the biggest difference. It was the small, consistent steps you took every day. These steps, though they may have seemed insignificant at the time, added up to create something extraordinary. Change doesn't happen overnight, but with patience and persistence, it does happen. The key is to start small, stay consistent, and keep moving forward. Chapter 5. Get clear on your why. Every significant achievement begins with a clear reason. Without knowing why something matters to you, it's hard to sustain effort or push through challenges. Your why is your purpose, the driving force that gives meaning to your actions and keeps you moving forward when things get tough. It's not just about setting goals, it's about understanding the deeper motivation behind them. When you're clear on why you want something, you gain the focus and determination needed to make it happen. Many people struggle to take consistent action because they haven't taken the time to dig deep and define what truly drives them. They might set goals because they sound good or because someone else expects them to, but those goals lack personal meaning. If your reasons aren't strong enough, it's easy to lose interest or give up when the initial excitement wears off. This is why connecting your goals to something meaningful is so important. Start by asking yourself what really matters to you. Think about your values, dreams, and the things that bring you the most joy and fulfillment. What kind of life do you want to create for yourself? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Your answers to these questions can help you uncover your deeper motivations. When your actions are aligned with your values and aspirations, they become more purposeful and rewarding. Once you've identified your why, take the time to visualize it. Imagine what your life will look like once you've achieved your goals. Picture yourself living the life you've always wanted, feeling the pride and satisfaction that comes with accomplishing something meaningful. The clearer and more detailed your vision, the more powerful it becomes as a source of motivation. Visualization isn't just a mental exercise, it's a way to remind yourself of what you're working toward and why it's worth the effort. Sometimes your why is tied to the people you care about. Maybe you want to provide a better future for your family, set a positive example for your children, or make a difference in your community. When your goals are connected to something larger than yourself, they take on even greater significance. It's easier to stay committed when you know your actions have the potential to impact others in a positive way. Your why doesn't have to be complicated or grandiose. It just needs to be meaningful to you. It could be as simple as wanting to feel healthier, more confident, or more financially secure. The key is to focus on what resonates with you personally, not what you think should matter. Authenticity is crucial here. Your why should come from your heart, not from external expectations. When you're clear on your purpose, it becomes easier to make decisions and prioritize your time. You stop wasting energy on things that don't align with your goals because you understand what's truly important. Your why acts as a compass, guiding you toward actions that bring you closer to your dreams and away from distractions that pull you off course. One challenge is that motivation can fade over time, especially when progress feels slow or obstacles arise. This is why it's important to regularly reconnect with your why. Remind yourself of the reasons you started and the impact achieving your goals will have on your life. Write down your why and keep it somewhere you can see it every day. Whether it's a note on your mirror, a reminder on your phone, or a journal entry, having a tangible reminder can help you stay focused and inspired. Another way to strengthen your commitment is to share your why with others. When you talk about your goals and the reasons behind them, you reinforce your own belief in what you're doing. Sharing your purpose with trusted friends or family members can also create a sense of accountability. They can support you, cheer you on, and remind you of your why when you need encouragement. It's also important to acknowledge that your why may evolve over time. As you grow and your priorities change, your motivations may shift. That's okay. What matters is staying in tune with yourself and adjusting your goals to reflect what's most meaningful to you in the present moment. This flexibility allows you to stay aligned with your values and maintain a sense of purpose even as your circumstances change. Sometimes, finding your why requires a bit of self-reflection. Take time to think about the moments in your life when you felt the most alive and fulfilled. What were you doing? Who were you with? What values were you honoring in those moments? These experiences can provide valuable clues about what truly matters to you and what motivates you to take action. It's also helpful to think about the challenges you've faced and how they've shaped you. Often, our struggles reveal what we care about most. They can give us insight into what we want to change or improve in our lives. For example, overcoming a difficult situation might inspire you to help others facing similar challenges. Your why can be rooted in both your joys and your hardships, making it deeply personal and powerful. When you know your why, you gain a sense of clarity and direction that makes it easier to stay disciplined and focused. You're less likely to be swayed by temporary setbacks or distractions because you have a strong foundation of purpose. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the effort required to achieve your goals, you're motivated by the rewards and fulfillment that come from staying true to your why. Every step you take toward your goals, no matter how small, brings you closer to living a life that reflects your values and aspirations. Your why is the fuel that powers your journey, the anchor that keeps you grounded, and the light that guides you forward. When you're connected to your purpose, you're capable of achieving more than you ever thought possible. Chapter 6. Mastering your mindset. Your mindset is everything. It's the lens through which you see the world, and it shapes how you respond to every situation in your life. The way you think influences the decisions you make, the actions you take, and ultimately the results you achieve. If you're struggling to take action or make progress, chances are that your mindset is holding you back. It's easy to get stuck in negative thought patterns that keep you from moving forward, but the good news is that you can change your mindset. The key is to recognize that your thoughts are within your control and that changing them is a matter of choice and practice. It all begins with awareness. Pay attention to the way you talk to yourself, especially when things don't go as planned. How often do you criticize yourself? How often do you think things like, "I can't do this," or "this is too hard"? These negative thoughts may seem harmless at first, but they add up and eventually become the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you want to take more action and achieve your goals, you have to change that narrative. Start by replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. Instead of focusing on your failures or shortcomings, focus on what you can do to improve. Instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," try thinking, "I'm capable of learning and growing." Shifting your mindset from one of self-doubt to one of self-belief is essential for taking action. When you believe that you can succeed, you're more likely to take the steps needed to make it happen. Another important aspect of mindset is your belief in the value of effort. Success doesn't happen overnight. It requires hard work, persistence, and patience. If you have a fixed mindset, the belief that your abilities are limited and cannot be changed, it's easy to give up when things get tough. But if you have a growth mindset, the belief that you can improve through effort and practice, setbacks become opportunities to learn, not reasons to quit. A growth mindset allows you to see challenges as part of the process. When you encounter obstacles, instead of thinking "this is too difficult," you think "this is an opportunity to grow and learn." You begin to embrace challenges instead of avoiding them, and this shift in perspective makes it easier to take action, even when things seem difficult or uncertain. Your mindset also influences how you handle failure. No one likes to fail, but failure is an inevitable part of the journey towards success. The key is not to let failure define you or stop you from moving forward. When you experience a setback, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that it means you're not capable or that you'll never succeed. But failure is only permanent if you stop trying. As long as you continue to take action, failure is simply a lesson that helps you improve. One way to develop a growth mindset is to surround yourself with positive influences. The people you spend time with can either lift you up or bring you down. If you're constantly around people who are negative, critical, or who don't believe in themselves, it's harder to maintain a positive mindset. On the other hand, being around people who encourage you, support you, and push you to be your best can make all the difference. Additionally, your mindset is influenced by the way you approach challenges. Do you view them as threats, or do you see them as opportunities to grow? The more you practice approaching challenges with curiosity and resilience, the easier it becomes to stay positive and keep taking action. Each time you face a difficulty and choose to persevere, your mindset shifts in favor of growth and progress. Another factor that shapes your mindset is your self-talk. The way you talk to yourself directly impacts how you feel and act. If you constantly tell yourself that you're not good enough or that you'll never succeed, your mind will start to believe it. On the other hand, if you speak to yourself with kindness and encouragement, your mind will respond positively. Practice using affirmations, positive, empowering statements that help you focus on your strengths and potential. Your mindset also plays a crucial role in how you deal with fear. Fear is a natural part of life, especially when it comes to taking action. Whether it's the fear of failure, the fear of the unknown, or the fear of not being good enough, fear can paralyze you if you let it. But fear doesn't have to control you. The key is to acknowledge it, but not let it stop you. Instead of allowing fear to hold you back, choose to take action despite it. Each time you act in the face of fear, you build confidence and diminish the power that fear has over you. Visualization is another powerful tool for shaping your mindset. When you visualize yourself succeeding, you send a clear message to your brain that success is possible. Your mind doesn't know the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. So the more you visualize success, the more your mind will believe it. This belief, in turn, increases your motivation and ability to take action. In addition to visualization, it's important to practice gratitude. When you focus on what's going well in your life, instead of what's going wrong, you shift your mindset toward positivity and abundance. Gratitude helps you maintain perspective and reminds you of the progress you've already made. This shift in focus makes it easier to take action because you're no longer weighed down by negative thoughts or doubts. Ultimately, taking control of your mindset is a daily practice. It's not something that changes overnight, but with consistent effort, you can rewire your brain to think more positively, more confidently, and more resiliently. Each time you choose to focus on what's possible instead of what's holding you back, you're strengthening your mindset and making it easier to take action. Your mindset is the foundation of everything you do. If you want to take action, you have to believe that it's possible and that you are capable of succeeding. By developing a growth mindset, practicing self-compassion, surrounding yourself with positive influences, and using tools like visualization and gratitude, you can cultivate a mindset that supports your goals and fuels your actions. It all starts with how you think, and with a shift in mindset, everything else will fall into place. Chapter 7. The Time Audit. Own your hours. How you use your time is one of the most important factors in whether or not you will achieve your goals. Every minute you spend doing something is a minute you can't get back, and when it comes to personal success, how you manage your time can make all the difference. If you're constantly running out of time or feeling overwhelmed, it's because you haven't taken the necessary steps to audit how you're using your hours. It's easy to get caught up in the busy day-to-day routine, but when you start paying attention to how you're actually spending your time, you'll quickly realize that much of it is wasted or not used in the most productive way. The first step to owning your hours is to become fully aware of where your time is going. This means tracking your daily activities for at least a week. Write down everything you do, how long it takes, what you're working on, and what you're thinking during that time. It can be eye-opening to see just how much time is spent on things that don't move you closer to your goals. For example, it's common to spend hours scrolling through social media, watching television, or handling unnecessary distractions that could have been used for more meaningful activities. This is not to say that you should eliminate leisure time completely, but when you start to track your time, you can see the gaps and wasted moments that can be used more intentionally. Once you've identified how you're spending your time, it's time to assess what's important and what's not. Prioritize your activities by focusing on what will get you closer to your goals. There are certain tasks that are essential to your success, and there are others that are just filling up space in your day. Start by cutting out or reducing the time spent on activities that don't contribute to your long-term objectives. Be honest with yourself about where your energy and time are being drained. Are there things you can delegate or eliminate altogether? Can you cut down on unnecessary meetings, excessive email checking, or mindless distractions that take up your valuable time? This doesn't mean you need to work every single minute of the day, but you do need to spend your time wisely. Make sure your time is aligned with your priorities. One of the most common mistakes people make is confusing being busy with being productive. You can be busy all day long, but if you're not making progress on the things that matter, you're not being productive. Time management is about being intentional. It's about choosing the right activities and investing your energy in the things that will help you move forward. A great way to manage your time more effectively is to plan your day in advance. Each night, take a few minutes to review what you need to do the next day. Write out a to-do list and organize your tasks by importance. Start with the most important and urgent tasks, and then move on to the less critical ones. By planning your day the night before, you eliminate the mental energy of figuring out what to do first thing in the morning. You can hit the ground running, knowing exactly what needs your attention. Another strategy for managing your time effectively is to break down large projects into smaller, more manageable tasks. When a project feels too big or overwhelming, it can be hard to get started. But when you break it down into smaller, more specific tasks, it becomes easier to take action. Instead of thinking, "I need to write a book," think, "I need to write one chapter today." The key is to focus on making progress, no matter how small the steps may seem. These small wins add up over time and help you stay on track toward your bigger goals. Once you've identified your goals, break them down into smaller, manageable steps. Big goals can feel overwhelming, especially if they seem far off or difficult to achieve. But when you break them down into smaller, more manageable tasks, they become much easier to tackle. For example, if your goal is to start a business, the first step might be researching your industry. After that, you can break it down further into creating a business plan, finding investors, and so on. Each small step brings you closer to the larger goal, and as you check them off, you'll feel a sense of progress and momentum. A good plan also includes deadlines. Without deadlines, it's easy to put things off and let procrastination take over. Deadlines create a sense of urgency and help you stay focused. When you set a deadline for each task, you hold yourself accountable. But deadlines should also be realistic. You don't want to set yourself up for failure by giving yourself too little time to complete something. At the same time, don't stretch them out so far that you have no sense of urgency. The key is to find a balance that challenges you to stay on track without overwhelming you. Next, identify the resources you need to achieve your goals. This includes things like time, money, knowledge, skills, and support. Think about what you already have and what you need to acquire in order to succeed. For example, if your goal is to write a book, you need to set aside time to write. If you don't have the skills or knowledge yet, you may need to take a course or read books on writing. Consider what resources you can leverage to help you achieve your goals faster and more effectively. Another important part of planning is anticipating potential obstacles. Life is unpredictable, and things don't always go as planned. But by anticipating challenges in advance, you can be better prepared to handle them when they arise. This might involve thinking about what could go wrong and coming up with solutions before problems even occur. For instance, if you're planning to start a business, you might anticipate financial difficulties, a lack of customers, or competition. By planning for these obstacles, you can put strategies in place to overcome them before they slow you down. It's also important to have a system for tracking your progress. Without tracking, it's easy to lose sight of how far you've come or where you're headed. Tracking gives you feedback and helps you stay motivated. You can track your progress by creating a checklist, using a project management tool, or simply writing down your accomplishments. This feedback allows you to celebrate your wins, learn from your mistakes, and make adjustments to your plan if necessary. The more progress you can see, the more motivated you'll be to keep moving forward. As you put your plan into action, make sure to stay flexible. Things may not always go as expected, and you may need to adjust your approach along the way. Flexibility is important because it allows you to respond to changes and challenges in a productive way. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to pivot or make adjustments. The key is to stay focused on your end goal, but be open to modifying your approach to get there. A successful plan also involves consistency. It's easy to start strong, but the real progress happens when you show up every day and put in the work, even when it gets difficult. Consistency builds momentum and reinforces your commitment to your goal. Set aside time each day or each week to work on your plan, no matter what else is going on. Over time, those small daily actions will add up to big results. When you plan effectively, you're not just organizing your tasks, you're also organizing your mind. A well-thought-out plan removes the mental clutter and helps you stay focused. When you have a clear roadmap, you don't have to waste time wondering what to do next. You have a sense of direction, and that makes it easier to take consistent action. A plan gives you a sense of control, which is empowering and motivating. Your plan should also take into account the importance of self-care. It's easy to get so caught up in your goals that you neglect your physical, emotional, and mental health. But taking care of yourself is crucial to your long-term success. Make sure your plan includes time for rest, exercise, and relaxation. If you burn yourself out, you won't have the energy or focus to keep moving forward. Self-care is not a luxury. It's a necessary part of any successful plan. Once you've identified your goals, break them down into smaller, manageable steps. Big goals can feel overwhelming, especially if they seem far off or difficult to achieve. But when you break them down into smaller, more manageable tasks, they become much easier to tackle. For example, if your goal is to start a business, the first step might be researching your industry. After that, you can break it down further into creating a business plan, finding investors, and so on. Each small step brings you closer to the larger goal, and as you check them off, you'll feel a sense of progress and momentum. A good plan also includes deadlines. Without deadlines, it's easy to put things off and let procrastination take over. Deadlines create a sense of urgency and help you stay focused. When you set a deadline for each task, you hold yourself accountable. But deadlines should also be realistic. You don't want to set yourself up for failure by giving yourself too little time to complete something. At the same time, don't stretch them out so far that you have no sense of urgency. The key is to find a balance that challenges you to stay on track without overwhelming you. Next, identify the resources you need to achieve your goals. This includes things like time, money, knowledge, skills, and support. Think about what you already have and what you need to acquire in order to succeed. For example, if your goal is to write a book, you need to set aside time to write. If you don't have the skills or knowledge yet, you may need to take a course or read books on writing. Consider what resources you can leverage to help you achieve your goals faster and more effectively. Another important part of planning is anticipating potential obstacles. Life is unpredictable, and things don't always go as planned. But by anticipating challenges in advance, you can be better prepared to handle them when they arise. This might involve thinking about what could go wrong and coming up with solutions before problems even occur. For instance, if you're planning to start a business, you might anticipate financial difficulties, a lack of customers, or competition. By planning for these obstacles, you can put strategies in place to overcome them before they slow you down. It's also important to have a system for tracking your progress. Without tracking, it's easy to lose sight of how far you've come or where you're headed. Tracking gives you feedback and helps you stay motivated. You can track your progress by creating a checklist, using a project management tool, or simply writing down your accomplishments. This feedback allows you to celebrate your wins, learn from your mistakes, and make adjustments to your plan if necessary. The more progress you can see, the more motivated you'll be to keep moving forward. As you put your plan into action, make sure to stay flexible. Things may not always go as expected, and you may need to adjust your approach along the way. Flexibility is important because it allows you to respond to changes and challenges in a productive way. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to pivot or make adjustments. The key is to stay focused on your end goal, but be open to modifying your approach to get there. A successful plan also involves consistency. It's easy to start strong, but the real progress happens when you show up every day and put in the work, even when it gets difficult. Consistency builds momentum and reinforces your commitment to your goal. Set aside time each day or each week to work on your plan, no matter what else is going on. Over time, those small daily actions will add up to big results. When you plan effectively, you're not just organizing your tasks, you're also organizing your mind. A well-thought-out plan removes the mental clutter and helps you stay focused. When you have a clear roadmap, you don't have to waste time wondering what to do next. You have a sense of direction, and that makes it easier to take consistent action. A plan gives you a sense of control, which is empowering and motivating. Your plan should also take into account the importance of self-care. It's easy to get so caught up in your goals that you neglect your physical, emotional, and mental health. But taking care of yourself is crucial to your long-term success. Make sure your plan includes time for rest, exercise, and relaxation. If you burn yourself out, you won't have the energy or focus to keep moving forward. Self-care is not a luxury. It's a necessary part of any successful plan. Once your plan is in motion, the final step is to keep yourself accountable. This means taking responsibility for your actions and holding yourself to your commitments. It's easy to make excuses or get distracted, but when you're accountable to yourself, you don't allow that to happen. One way to do this is by sharing your goals with someone else, whether it's a friend, mentor, or accountability partner. Knowing that someone else is keeping track of your progress can be a powerful motivator. At the end of the day, having a plan isn't just about having a list of tasks, it's about taking intentional, focused action toward your goals. A good plan keeps you on track, helps you stay organized, and motivates you to push through obstacles. It helps you avoid wasting time and energy on things that don't matter, and instead directs your efforts toward the things that will get you closer to success. The more clearly defined your plan is, the more likely you are to stay on track and achieve your goals. A solid plan doesn't guarantee success on its own, but it certainly increases the chances that you'll reach your desired outcome. By taking the time to create a thoughtful, actionable plan, you're setting yourself up for success. Chapter 9. Visualizing success. Success isn't just about hard work or even about being the smartest. One of the key ingredients to achieving anything meaningful in life is having a clear, vivid picture of what success looks like for you. Visualization isn't just some nice-to-have skill, it's a powerful tool that can transform how you approach your goals and dreams. When you can see yourself succeeding, you not only build confidence, but you also make it easier to take the necessary steps to make that vision a reality. The power of visualization lies in its ability to focus your mind on what's possible. It's about mentally rehearsing your success, seeing yourself in the position you want to be, and feeling the emotions that come with it. The more detailed and real this image becomes, the stronger the pull toward achieving it. This isn't some abstract idea. This is your mind actively creating the path to success, one step at a time. The more vivid the picture, the clearer the actions you need to take will become. If you can see yourself in the role you want to play, you'll start acting like the person who deserves that role. Take a moment and think about where you want to be in a year, 5 years, or even 10 years. What does your life look like? What have you achieved? How do you feel? Are you living in a place you've always dreamed of? Are you working at a job you're passionate about? Are you making the kind of impact you want? Visualizing these outcomes in detail is the first step to bringing them into your life. When you spend time imagining the life you want, you're telling your brain that this is what you're aiming for. Your mind starts to adjust, recognizing the steps, actions, and opportunities that will move you closer to this picture. The emotional component of visualization is also critical. It's not just about imagining the end result, but about connecting with the feelings you'd experience if you had already achieved it. These emotions are powerful. They drive action. The excitement, the pride, the relief, you want to feel those emotions in the present as if you've already accomplished your goal. When you connect emotionally with your success, it makes it feel more real. And the more real it feels, the more motivated you are to make it happen. Visualization works because it taps into the way your brain processes information. When you visualize yourself achieving your goals, your brain begins to treat those images as if they're real events. This primes your mind and body to act in ways that align with those images. It might sound strange, but the mind doesn't distinguish between real experiences and those vividly imagined. If you can imagine yourself doing something, your body and mind will be more likely to act in a way that supports that vision. If you imagine yourself giving a successful presentation, for example, your body will feel less nervous when the time comes, and you'll be more prepared to handle the situation with confidence. This mental rehearsal makes the physical actions easier. If you've ever practiced anything, whether it's an athletic skill, a speech, or even a difficult conversation, you know how much more comfortable and natural it feels when you've already rehearsed it mentally. By visualizing yourself in the exact scenario you're facing, you reduce anxiety and increase your ability to take action. You start believing in the possibility of success, and that belief creates momentum. To make visualization even more effective, make it a daily habit. Set aside a few minutes each day to really picture your goals. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and imagine yourself already achieving what you want. See the sights, hear the sounds, feel the emotions of success. The more you do this, the clearer the path to success becomes. Your mind becomes more aligned with your goals, and you naturally begin to make decisions and take actions that move you closer to that vision. The power of visualization is not just in dreaming about what you want, it's in the preparation it provides. The more you visualize, the more your mind starts to focus on what needs to be done. It works like a roadmap for your brain. It's one thing to set a goal, but visualization gives you the clarity you need to determine the steps to reach it. You begin to see opportunities and pathways that you may have missed otherwise. Your brain becomes wired to find solutions that bring you closer to the goal you've already seen in your mind. You may be thinking that visualization is just wishful thinking, but it's not. It's a strategy that successful people use every day. Think about athletes, artists, or leaders in any field. Before they take action, they spend time visualizing their performance. Whether it's a basketball player imagining a perfect shot, or a speaker visualizing a successful presentation, the mental preparation sets the stage for success. When you visualize yourself performing at your best, you create the conditions for the real thing to happen. It builds confidence and reduces the fear of failure. When you see success in your mind, failure no longer feels like a possibility, it's simply an obstacle to overcome. Another way to make visualization even more powerful is to surround yourself with reminders of your vision. Write down your goals and place them somewhere you'll see them often. This keeps your vision fresh in your mind and reinforces the mental image you've created. It's not just about imagining success once, it's about keeping that image in front of you every day. This helps maintain focus and keeps you from getting distracted by the challenges that come up along the way. It's also helpful to imagine the process, not just the outcome. Visualize not only the final goal, but the steps it will take to get there. Picture yourself working hard, facing challenges, and overcoming obstacles. This helps you prepare mentally for the effort and persistence required. If you only visualize the end result, you might overlook the work that needs to be done to reach that point. It's the daily actions, the small steps, that bring you closer to your dreams. Visualizing the process allows you to stay grounded in the work while still keeping the bigger picture in mind. One thing to keep in mind is that visualization works best when paired with real action. While imagining success is important, it's equally important to take tangible steps toward your goals. Visualization isn't magic. It's a tool that supports action. When you see yourself succeeding, it motivates you to put in the work. It strengthens your commitment and pushes you to keep going, even when things get tough. Success doesn't come from just thinking about it. It comes from taking the necessary steps, one after the other. Visualization provides the mental preparation that makes those steps easier to take. Over time, as you consistently visualize your success and take deliberate actions toward it, you'll start to notice shifts in your mindset. Your confidence will grow, your goals will seem more achievable, and the obstacles in your path will start to look smaller. Visualization allows you to train your mind for success, and as your mind begins to align with your vision, your actions will follow suit. Visualization is a simple yet powerful tool that can help you stay focused, overcome obstacles, and create the life you want. It's not a magic trick, it's a mental exercise that primes your brain to achieve success. When you visualize your goals clearly, you increase your motivation, boost your confidence, and pave the way for taking real action. The more you see yourself succeeding, the more likely you are to make that success a reality. Chapter 10: Energy Management, Fuel for Action. Taking action isn't just about having a plan or the right mindset. It also requires the energy to do what needs to be done. Without energy, even the best ideas and the most detailed plans are unlikely to go anywhere. We all have the same amount of hours in a day, but how we manage our energy can make all the difference in achieving success. Energy is a key component that many overlook when they think about productivity or getting things done. Deadlines also force us to prioritize. When we have limited time, we're forced to figure out what's most important and focus on those tasks. This eliminates the tendency to get lost in less important activities or distractions. It helps us avoid perfectionism because we understand that we simply don't have the luxury of endless time to tinker with every detail. The goal becomes clear: get it done, and get it done well enough to meet the deadline. This mindset helps eliminate the temptation to procrastinate or overthink every step of the process. Another powerful benefit of deadlines is that they can help you build a sense of urgency. When we have a long, open-ended timeline, we tend to stretch tasks out and take our time. But when we have a deadline staring us in the face, we shift our mindset. We start thinking about what needs to be done now, rather than what can wait. This helps us overcome procrastination and take action, even if we don't feel ready or if the task seems overwhelming. The pressure of a deadline often pushes us to take the first step, which is the hardest part of any project. The fear of missing deadlines can be a powerful motivator, but it's important not to let that fear paralyze you. While deadlines are meant to push you to act, they shouldn't overwhelm you to the point where they cause stress or anxiety. If the deadline feels too close or impossible to meet, it may be a sign that the goal is too big or that you haven't broken it down into manageable steps. In these cases, it's important to reevaluate the timeline and adjust the deadline if needed. There's no shame in giving yourself a little extra time to ensure that you're doing quality work. The important thing is to stay committed and focused on meeting your deadlines, no matter how tight they may be. It's also crucial to track your progress as you work toward meeting a deadline. Having a visual representation of your progress can keep you motivated and on track. This could be as simple as checking off tasks on a to-do list, tracking milestones, or using a calendar to mark off days until the deadline. Seeing that progress builds momentum and reinforces the idea that you're moving forward, which makes it easier to stay focused and committed to completing the task on time. One mistake many people make with deadlines is waiting until the last minute to start working on a task. This creates unnecessary stress and often leads to rushed, subpar work. It also increases the chances of missing the deadline altogether. To avoid this, break down your tasks into smaller, more manageable steps and set mini deadlines along the way. This way, you can chip away at the task over time, making steady progress without feeling overwhelmed. When the deadline finally arrives, you'll be much better prepared to meet it without panic or last-minute scrambling. It's also worth mentioning that deadlines are not just for big projects or long-term goals. They can be just as effective for smaller tasks and everyday responsibilities. If you struggle with procrastination, setting deadlines for even the smallest tasks can help you take action. For example, if you've been putting off responding to emails, set a deadline for when you'll get it done. If you've been avoiding organizing your workspace, give yourself a deadline to tidy up by the end of the day. These small deadlines can build momentum and create a habit of taking action, which eventually carries over into bigger projects and goals. Deadlines are essential for building discipline and fostering a sense of urgency in your daily routine. Without them, it's easy to fall into the trap of endless planning and waiting for the perfect moment to take action. But that moment rarely comes, and without a deadline, we often find ourselves stuck in the cycle of hesitation and delay. Setting firm, clear deadlines helps break that cycle and forces us to act, even when we don't feel fully prepared or motivated. They create a sense of structure and accountability, allowing us to make steady progress toward our goals and ultimately achieve success. Deadlines aren't just about finishing tasks on time, they're about pushing yourself to take action and stay focused. They give us the pressure we need to move forward, stop overthinking, and get things done. With the right mindset and a commitment to meeting your deadlines, you can break through procrastination, make consistent progress, and achieve your goals faster than you ever thought possible. Deadlines don't just help us finish, they help us start, stay motivated, and keep going, even when things get tough. A key principle of energy management is aligning your energy with your goals. If you're spending a lot of time on tasks that don't bring you closer to your objectives, you're wasting your energy. This is why it's so important to have a clear sense of what you want to achieve. Once you know your goals, you can allocate your energy to the activities that will move you in the right direction. This means saying no to distractions, avoiding time-wasting habits, and staying focused on the tasks that matter most. It's also helpful to prioritize tasks based on energy levels. Some tasks are more mentally demanding than others, so it's a good idea to tackle them during your peak energy times. For example, if you're more focused in the morning, use that time to work on high-priority, complex tasks. Save routine or less demanding tasks for when your energy levels are lower. This helps ensure that you're working at your highest capacity when it matters most. Another strategy for managing energy is to break tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces. When faced with a large, overwhelming project, it's easy to become mentally exhausted before you even begin. Breaking the task into smaller chunks makes it easier to stay focused and prevents you from feeling overwhelmed. Each small victory along the way builds momentum and gives you the energy to keep going. If you're feeling stuck or lacking in motivation, it can help to remind yourself of your why. What is it that drives you to take action in the first place? Reconnecting with the deeper reasons behind your goals can reignite your energy and passion for the work ahead. When you remember why you started, it becomes easier to push through the moments of doubt or fatigue. Managing your energy isn't a one-time fix, it's an ongoing process. You have to stay mindful of your habits and make adjustments as needed. It's about being proactive rather than reactive, anticipating your needs before they become a problem. When you learn how to manage your energy effectively, you'll find that you have the motivation and stamina to take consistent action toward your goals. Energy management is not just about staying awake and alert. It's about maintaining a consistent, sustainable level of energy that supports your goals and keeps you moving forward. When you take care of your physical health, manage your mental state, and align your energy with your objectives, you create the foundation for taking meaningful, sustained action. With the right energy, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Chapter 11. The Power of Deadlines. Deadlines are one of the most powerful tools we have when it comes to pushing ourselves to take action. They hold us accountable, give us a sense of urgency, and help us focus our energy on what truly matters. Without deadlines, it's easy to let tasks drag on indefinitely, constantly putting them off or letting them slip through the cracks. But when we set deadlines, we create a framework that forces us to get moving and make progress. One of the biggest reasons deadlines are so effective is because they tap into our natural desire to avoid discomfort. Procrastination is often a result of fear or resistance, whether that's fear of failure, fear of doing the work, or simply the discomfort of getting started. Deadlines provide a sense of pressure, which can help overcome this resistance. When you know you have a specific time frame to work within, the urgency makes it harder to justify putting things off. The key is not just to set a deadline, but to make it real and tangible. A deadline that's vague or far off in the distance doesn't carry much weight. It's easy to ignore it because it feels like there's always more time. Instead, create deadlines that are specific and immediate. Give yourself a clear start and end date, and break down your larger goals into smaller tasks with their own deadlines. This way, you have multiple points of accountability throughout the process, which helps maintain momentum and ensures that progress is being made consistently. One of the best ways to make deadlines effective is to hold yourself accountable to someone else. When you tell someone about your goal and the deadline you've set, it adds an extra layer of pressure. Now you're not just letting yourself down if you miss the deadline, but also someone else. This external accountability can be a powerful motivator to follow through and keep your promises. Whether it's a mentor, friend, or colleague, having someone who knows your deadline and is checking in on your progress can help keep you on track. Deadlines also force us to prioritize. When we have limited time, we're forced to figure out what's most important and focus on those tasks. This eliminates the tendency to get lost in less important activities or distractions. It helps us avoid perfectionism because we understand that we simply don't have the luxury of endless time to tinker with every detail. The goal becomes clear: get it done, and get it done well enough to meet the deadline. This mindset helps eliminate the temptation to procrastinate or overthink every step of the process. Another powerful benefit of deadlines is that they can help you build a sense of urgency. When we have a long, open-ended timeline, we tend to stretch tasks out and take our time. But when we have a deadline staring us in the face, we shift our mindset. We start thinking about what needs to be done now, rather than what can wait. This helps us overcome procrastination and take action, even if we don't feel ready or if the task seems overwhelming. The pressure of a deadline often pushes us to take the first step, which is the hardest part of any project. The fear of missing deadlines can be a powerful motivator, but it's important not to let that fear paralyze you. While deadlines are meant to push you to act, they shouldn't overwhelm you to the point where they cause stress or anxiety. If the deadline feels too close or impossible to meet, it may be a sign that the goal is too big or that you haven't broken it down into manageable steps. In these cases, it's important to reevaluate the timeline and adjust the deadline if needed. There's no shame in giving yourself a little extra time to ensure that you're doing quality work. The important thing is to stay committed and focused on meeting your deadlines, no matter how tight they may be. It's also crucial to track your progress as you work toward meeting a deadline. Having a visual representation of your progress can keep you motivated and on track. This could be as simple as checking off tasks on a to-do list, tracking milestones, or using a calendar to mark off days until the deadline. Seeing that progress builds momentum and reinforces the idea that you're moving forward, which makes it easier to stay focused and committed to completing the task on time. One mistake many people make with deadlines is waiting until the last minute to start working on a task. This creates unnecessary stress and often leads to rushed, subpar work. It also increases the chances of missing the deadline altogether. To avoid this, break down your tasks into smaller, more manageable steps and set mini deadlines along the way. This way, you can chip away at the task over time, making steady progress without feeling overwhelmed. When the deadline finally arrives, you'll be much better prepared to meet it without panic or last-minute scrambling. It's also worth mentioning that deadlines are not just for big projects or long-term goals. They can be just as effective for smaller tasks and everyday responsibilities. If you struggle with procrastination, setting deadlines for even the smallest tasks can help you take action. For example, if you've been putting off responding to emails, set a deadline for when you'll get it done. If you've been avoiding organizing your workspace, give yourself a deadline to tidy up by the end of the day. These small deadlines can build momentum and create a habit of taking action, which eventually carries over into bigger projects and goals. Deadlines are essential for building discipline and fostering a sense of urgency in your daily routine. Without them, it's easy to fall into the trap of endless planning and waiting for the perfect moment to take action. But that moment rarely comes, and without a deadline, we often find ourselves stuck in the cycle of hesitation and delay. Setting firm, clear deadlines helps break that cycle and forces us to act, even when we don't feel fully prepared or motivated. They create a sense of structure and accountability, allowing us to make steady progress toward our goals and ultimately achieve success. Deadlines aren't just about finishing tasks on time, they're about pushing yourself to take action and stay focused. They give us the pressure we need to move forward, stop overthinking, and get things done. With the right mindset and a commitment to meeting your deadlines, you can break through procrastination, make consistent progress, and achieve your goals faster than you ever thought possible. Deadlines don't just help us finish, they help us start, stay motivated, and keep going, even when things get tough. Chapter 12. Get comfortable with discomfort. There's no getting around it. Doing something difficult or uncomfortable is a part of life. Whether it's tackling a challenging task, dealing with personal issues, or just stepping out of your comfort zone, discomfort is something we all face at some point. The key to making progress, however, is not avoiding discomfort, it's learning how to deal with it and use it as a tool to move forward. Getting comfortable with discomfort starts with understanding that discomfort is often a sign of growth. It's easy to think that when something feels hard or uncomfortable, we should stop or avoid it. But in reality, those moments are often when we're on the verge of a breakthrough. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. In fact, the more comfortable we get with discomfort, the more capable we become of handling challenges and seizing opportunities. The trick is to start shifting your mindset and viewing discomfort as a sign that you're stretching beyond your limits, not something to run away from. One of the best ways to build comfort with discomfort is by taking small steps outside of your comfort zone every day. You don't have to jump into something huge or life-altering right away. In fact, it's better to start small and gradually increase the level of discomfort. This could mean having a difficult conversation, taking on a project you've been avoiding, or simply doing something that challenges you. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the less intimidating it becomes. Over time, those small steps will add up, and you'll start to see that discomfort isn't something that should hold you back, it's something that can propel you forward. It's also important to recognize that discomfort comes in many forms. It might be physical discomfort, like pushing yourself to work out harder than you ever have before. Or it might be mental discomfort, like working through feelings of fear, anxiety, or self-doubt. But no matter what kind of discomfort it is, it's always temporary. It may feel difficult in the moment, but once you push through it, you'll often find that the reward is worth the struggle. The problem is that when we encounter discomfort, our natural instinct is often to avoid it. We might procrastinate, make excuses, or find ways to avoid taking action. This is a survival mechanism designed to protect us from harm, but it can also keep us stuck in a cycle of inaction and fear. In order to make progress, we need to reframe the way we view discomfort. Instead of seeing it as something to be avoided, we should see it as a signal that we're pushing ourselves to grow. If you've ever worked hard at something and felt that sense of accomplishment afterward, you know that discomfort is often the price we pay for achievement. But the more we accept that discomfort is part of the process, the more willing we become to face it head-on. When you start taking action despite the discomfort, you'll begin to build momentum. At first, it might feel like an uphill battle. It might feel like every step is a struggle, but every time you push through, you gain confidence. You prove to yourself that you're capable of handling challenges, and this builds a sense of resilience that will serve you in every area of your life. The more you take action, the more you realize that the discomfort you once feared is actually not as bad as you imagined. In fact, it becomes a tool you can use to fuel your progress. One of the best ways to get comfortable with discomfort is by focusing on the long-term benefits rather than the short-term discomfort. It's easy to be distracted by the immediate discomfort of a difficult task, but when you keep your eyes on the bigger picture, it becomes easier to push through. Whether it's achieving a personal goal, improving your skills, or building better habits, the rewards on the other side of discomfort far outweigh the temporary pain of the struggle. When we resist discomfort, we resist growth. We get stuck in the cycle of procrastination and avoidance, and as a result, we never make progress. But when we choose to face discomfort head-on, we open ourselves up to new opportunities, new experiences, and new ways of thinking. The discomfort becomes the bridge between where we are now and where we want to be. It's the discomfort of doing something new, of taking a chance, of breaking old habits, that leads us to the success and fulfillment we desire. In some cases, discomfort comes in the form of fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. These fears are all rooted in uncertainty, and they can make us freeze in place, avoiding action at all costs. But when you learn to sit with your fear and still take action despite it, you start to see that fear is often exaggerated. Most of the time, the worst-case scenario we imagine in our heads never actually happens. And even if it does, we're much more capable of handling it than we give ourselves credit for. Another aspect of discomfort that many people struggle with is self-doubt. We often question our abilities, our worth, and our potential, and this can be a major barrier to taking action. But self-doubt is just a thought tone that doesn't define who you are or what you're capable of. When you start to realize that discomfort, in the form of doubt or fear, is just part of the process, you can stop letting it control you. Instead, you can take action anyway, knowing that it's normal to feel uncertain at times. It's important to note that getting comfortable with discomfort doesn't mean you'll never feel fear or anxiety again. Those feelings will always be there to some degree. But when you start to shift your perspective, you begin to understand that fear doesn't have to stop you. In fact, fear can be a powerful motivator if you learn to work with it instead of against it. By accepting discomfort as part of the journey, you build the mental and emotional strength to push through it and keep moving forward. When you stop avoiding discomfort and instead lean into it, you'll begin to notice a shift in your mindset. You'll become less afraid of failure and rejection and more willing to take risks. You'll stop waiting for the perfect moment and instead take action in the face of uncertainty. Discomfort becomes your ally, not your enemy. It's the fuel that drives you to take action, keep going when things get tough, and ultimately achieve your goals. It's not easy to get comfortable with discomfort. It takes time, practice, and a willingness to face your fears and uncertainties head-on. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And the more comfortable you become with discomfort, the more you'll be able to take action, build momentum, and create the life you truly want. So, the next time you feel discomfort creeping in, don't back away. Embrace it, push through it, and let it propel you forward toward your goals. Chapter 13. Overcoming resistance. Resistance is something that affects all of us. It's a natural part of the human experience. It shows up when you're about to do something new, something challenging, or when you face the unknown. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that resistance is something you should avoid, something that means you're not meant to do what you're about to do. But that's not the case. Resistance is just a sign that you're pushing yourself, and that's when you're on the right track. We've all experienced the urge to procrastinate, whether it's a big project at work, a goal we want to accomplish, or even something as simple as starting a workout routine. Resistance tends to rear its head. It can feel like an invisible force pulling us away from our goals, telling us to wait until we feel better, telling us that now is not the right time, or convincing us that we'll never be able to do it anyway. It's easy to listen to these thoughts and let them stop us from taking action. But here's the truth. Resistance is not something to fear. It's simply a sign that you're about to push beyond your comfort zone, and that's where growth happens. When resistance shows up, it often feels like an overwhelming force. It can come in the form of self-doubt, anxiety, or even physical fatigue. It's as if your mind is trying to protect you from failure, from embarrassment, or from the unknown. But that's not what's really happening. What's really happening is that your mind is trying to keep you safe in a familiar place. It's doing its job, trying to protect you from discomfort and risk. But growth doesn't happen in safe, familiar places. It happens when we venture into the unknown, when we push through resistance, and when we refuse to let fear and self-doubt stop us from taking action. One of the most effective ways to deal with resistance is to break things down into smaller, more manageable steps. Often, resistance feels so powerful because the task ahead seems insurmountable. The idea of completing an entire project or making a big change can feel overwhelming, and that's where the resistance kicks in. It tells you that it's too much, that you're not capable of doing it, and that you should just wait for a better time. But the truth is, the best way to overcome resistance is by making things easier on yourself. Instead of looking at the entire task, break it down into smaller, actionable steps. By focusing on the next small step, rather than the whole project, you'll find that the resistance starts to fade. Another powerful way to deal with resistance is to recognize it for what it is, an opportunity for growth. When you feel resistance, it means you're about to do something important, something that could lead to a breakthrough in your life. Think of resistance as a signal that you're on the right path, not a roadblock preventing you from moving forward. The more you recognize this, the easier it will be to push through it. Instead of seeing resistance as something negative, start to view it as a positive sign that you're pushing yourself beyond your limits, which is exactly where growth happens. Many times, we give in to resistance simply because we feel overwhelmed or afraid of failing. We think that if we avoid the task, we can avoid the discomfort or anxiety that comes with it. But avoiding resistance doesn't solve the problem, it just delays it. Procrastination is a form of avoidance, and the longer you put something off, the more resistance builds up. What starts as a small task can quickly become something much bigger, and the fear or resistance you feel only gets stronger. The more you face resistance head-on and take action, the less power it has over you. A big part of overcoming resistance is simply showing up. It doesn't always have to be about doing everything perfectly. In fact, perfection is often what keeps us stuck. We worry that if we don't do something perfectly, it's not worth doing at all. But the truth is, nothing is ever perfect. The key is to take action regardless of how you feel or how ready you think you are. It's about making the decision to show up and do the work, even if you don't have all the answers or feel like you're ready. Every time you take action despite the resistance, you build confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. When resistance tries to stop you, it's easy to give in to the thoughts and feelings that arise. But instead of fighting against those feelings, try to simply observe them. Acknowledge the resistance for what it is, and then continue moving forward. Resistance often becomes more powerful when we struggle against it. By recognizing it as a natural part of the process and not something to be feared, you can neutralize its effect on you. When you stop trying to avoid or fight the resistance, it loses its grip, and you regain control over your actions. One thing to keep in mind when dealing with resistance is that it's often tied to fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of making a mistake. These are all things that trigger resistance. It's important to understand that fear is just a natural part of the process. Every successful person has faced fear and resistance at some point in their journey. The difference is that they didn't let it stop them. Instead of letting fear control them, they used it as fuel to keep moving forward. Fear is not an obstacle, it's a signal that you're pushing yourself to do something meaningful. The more you acknowledge this, the less power fear will have over you. Another important aspect of overcoming resistance is developing a sense of purpose. When you have a clear reason for doing something, resistance becomes easier to push through. Purpose gives you the strength to keep going when things get tough. It reminds you of why you started in the first place and helps you stay focused on your long-term goals. Without a strong sense of purpose, resistance can feel like a brick wall. But when you have a deep connection to why you're doing something, that resistance starts to feel less intimidating. Remember that resistance doesn't last forever. It might feel intense at first, but once you push through, you'll find that the road gets easier. The more you practice overcoming resistance, the better you'll get at dealing with it. It's like building a muscle. At first, it's difficult, but over time, it becomes easier to push through and take action. The more you take action, the more momentum you build, and the less resistance will be able to stop you. Resistance is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's a sign that you're about to do something important, something that will move you forward in your life. The more you recognize resistance as an opportunity for growth, the easier it will be to push through and take action. The key is to face it head on, break things down into manageable steps, and keep going even when it feels uncomfortable. When you do this, you'll find that resistance loses its power, and you'll start moving closer and closer to the success you want to achieve. Chapter 14. Celebrate progress, not perfection. The journey to achieving anything worthwhile is never a straight line. Progress often comes in fits and starts, and along the way, we're bound to face setbacks. But it's important to remember that growth is not about perfection. It's about consistent movement forward, no matter how small. The goal is to keep improving, not to have everything figured out or to execute everything flawlessly. We get stuck when we wait for perfection to arrive, thinking that if we can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing at all. This is where the real struggle lies, in the idea that we need to be perfect. In reality, nothing in life is perfect. Success doesn't come from never failing, but from failing, learning, and then trying again. The key to long-term success is not about hitting the mark every single time, but rather about consistently showing up, learning from the process, and making adjustments along the way. The biggest mistake we can make is to expect everything to fall into place immediately. It's the moments of progress, no matter how small, that create the compound effect that leads to big results over time. When you focus too much on the end goal and expect perfection, you set yourself up for frustration. You'll likely feel discouraged if things don't go exactly as planned or if progress seems slower than you hope. But success is built over time, and it's the consistent effort day after day, week after week that eventually leads to results. If you're waiting for everything to be just right, you'll spend most of your life waiting and never taking action. This is why it's crucial to celebrate progress, even if it feels small or insignificant. Each step forward is a step towards success. Whether it's writing one page when you were aiming for 10, making one sales call when you planned to make 20, or running for 5 minutes when you meant to run for 30, every action is a victory. Acknowledge it. Recognize that you've moved the needle, even just a little bit. It's not about perfection, it's about momentum. The more you celebrate these little wins, the more motivated you'll feel to keep going. And when you start to focus on the small victories, you'll begin to notice how much progress you've actually made. This shift in mindset from perfection to progress can make all the difference. Instead of feeling defeated by what you didn't accomplish, focus on what you did accomplish. It's easy to get discouraged when the finish line feels so far away, but when you break down the journey into smaller pieces and celebrate each one, the end goal doesn't seem as daunting. It becomes more attainable. The small, consistent actions you take will add up over time, and you'll look back and realize just how far you've come. This principle applies not only to personal goals, but to all areas of life. Whether you're working on a professional project, starting a new exercise routine, or trying to improve a relationship, progress is key. You'll never get everything right the first time. You'll make mistakes. You'll fall short of your own expectations, but that's part of the process. The more you embrace imperfection and focus on making progress rather than being perfect, the more successful you'll become. The key to long-term success isn't about being flawless. It's about continually moving forward, no matter how small the steps. If you take a step back and look at how much you've accomplished over a longer period, you'll realize that progress is happening all the time. It might not always be noticeable in the moment, but if you look at the bigger picture, you'll see the growth. Over time, even the smallest steps add up, and before you know it, you'll have made incredible progress without even realizing it. This is why consistency is so important. Success doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen with small, consistent actions. The power of celebrating progress is that it keeps you motivated. Every time you acknowledge a win, no matter how small, you're reinforcing the habit and strengthening your resolve. It becomes easier to keep going when you focus on the positive, rather than dwelling on what's still left to do. And as you continue to celebrate progress, you'll find that you start taking even more action, because success becomes a habit, and you're always looking for the next opportunity to move forward. When you shift your focus from perfection to progress, you also start to let go of the pressure you put on yourself. Perfection is a heavy burden to carry. It's something that keeps us stuck, afraid to make a move, because we don't want to do anything that isn't flawless. But when you realize that every step forward is an achievement, you free yourself from the chains of perfectionism. You give yourself permission to learn, to grow, and to make mistakes. You realize that mistakes are part of the process, not obstacles standing in your way. So, the next time you feel frustrated because you haven't reached your goal yet, take a moment to reflect on the progress you've made. Look at how far you've come. Remember that the journey is just as important as the destination, and every step forward counts. Embrace imperfection and celebrate progress, because that's how success is built. It's not about doing everything perfectly, it's about doing something, no matter how small, every single day. And over time, those small steps will add up to something much bigger than you ever imagined. Chapter 15. Learn, adapt, improve. When you start a new endeavor, it's natural to want quick results. You set a goal, take a few actions, and then wonder why the results aren't pouring in. The truth is, growth isn't always linear, and it rarely happens as fast as we want it to. Success doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, and understanding that process is critical for long-term achievement. One of the most important habits you can develop is learning how to adapt. Progress involves a constant process of learning, adapting, and improving. The reality is, things won't always go according to plan. The path you set out on won't always look the way you thought it would. There will be bumps in the road, and you'll need to adjust course along the way. That's where the power of learning comes in. Every challenge you face holds an opportunity to learn something new. Each setback teaches you valuable lessons, even if they aren't obvious at first. The key is to approach these challenges with the mindset of a learner, not as someone who's simply trying to succeed. Every piece of feedback, whether from yourself or others, is valuable information that can help you improve. If you can take that feedback and make the necessary adjustments, you're on the right track. What separates those who achieve success from those who don't is their ability to adapt, learn, and move forward. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that you must do everything perfectly from the beginning, but the truth is, you won't. No one does. The most successful people are those who take the information they gather through trial and error and use it to make smarter decisions in the future. They don't let failures define them. Instead, they let them refine them. The process of learning, adapting, and improving is ongoing. There's always room to grow, and the more open you are to learning, the faster you'll improve. When you start a new project or work toward a goal, you don't have all the answers. And you probably won't have all the answers even after you've made some progress. That's okay. In fact, it's necessary. No one has a perfect blueprint for success. You figure things out as you go. The important thing is to stay committed, embrace the process, and keep learning from your experiences. With each failure, you gain a deeper understanding of what works and what doesn't. With each success, you learn what it takes to build on that momentum. Part of the learning process is being willing to experiment. It's important to take risks, try new things, and step out of your comfort zone. The only way to truly understand what works for you is to test it out and see what happens. Sometimes the results will be exactly what you expected, and other times they will completely surprise you. But in every case, you'll have gained something valuable. If you make the commitment to experiment, to try different approaches, and to learn from what you find, you'll make progress that is far more meaningful and sustainable. Along the way, you will undoubtedly encounter doubts. It's normal to question yourself and wonder if what you're doing is the right thing, but don't let doubt stop you from moving forward. Instead, use it as an opportunity to dig deeper. Ask yourself what you can learn from the situation and how you can adjust your approach. Remember, the goal isn't to avoid mistakes, it's to learn from them and keep improving. Each new challenge is simply a chance to refine your skills and become better at what you do. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that success is all about having a perfect plan, but the truth is that even the best-laid plans often require adjustments. Your plan is a starting point, but it's the actions you take and the lessons you learn that determine your success. When things don't go according to plan, rather than becoming frustrated or discouraged, treat it as an opportunity to learn and adapt. Ask yourself what changes need to be made and how you can adjust your strategy to achieve the results you want. Sometimes, adapting means changing your perspective. When you find yourself stuck in a certain way of thinking or facing a problem that seems unsolvable, it's important to step back and look at things from a different angle. A shift in perspective can often lead to new solutions and ideas that you wouldn't have considered before. The ability to adjust your thinking, to look at a situation with fresh eyes, is a powerful tool for problem solving. Along with adapting, improving is essential. Progress isn't just about learning from your mistakes, it's about using that knowledge to get better. Every time you learn something, you have the opportunity to apply it and do things differently. Improvement doesn't always happen in big leaps, but rather in small, consistent steps. Over time, these small improvements add up, and before you know it, you've become much more skilled at what you do. But improvement is not a destination, it's a continuous process. Even when you've reached a certain level of success, there's always room for growth. The most successful people aren't the ones who stop once they reach their goal. They're the ones who keep striving to get better. They continuously seek ways to improve, refine their skills, and adapt to new circumstances. This mindset of continual improvement is what keeps them ahead and allows them to achieve even greater things. The key takeaway here is that learning, adapting, and improving are ongoing processes. There's no end to learning. There's no end to improvement. Every day is an opportunity to become a better version of yourself. And when you embrace this mindset, you create a foundation for long-term success. You'll be prepared to face challenges, overcome obstacles, and keep moving forward no matter what comes your way. The more you commit to learning, adapting, and improving, the more you'll grow and the more success you'll achieve. Now that you know how to push yourself into action, it's up to you to start applying these strategies in your life. Don't wait for the perfect time or feel like you need everything to be in place before you begin. Just take that first step, even if it's small. Every little bit of action counts, and over time, those steps will add up to real progress. Keep going, stay focused, and remember, success comes from taking consistent action, day after day. You've got this.